Welcome back. This is part 2 of our quadratic functions notes. In these notes, we're going to talk about how to write an equation of a quadratic formula. So finding a formula for a quadratic function from given information. Much like in a line where with a line you either needed a point and a slope, in which case we use point-slope form of a line, or we needed the slope and the y-intercept, in which case we use slope-intercept form of a line. We've got different information we need based on, well, we have different forms we can use based on the information we have. So if we just review those forms, our most useful forms for finding a quadratic are vertex form, which was y equals a times x minus h, which is squared, plus k, where the vertex is the point hk, and we would need, right, we would be looking to find a, h, and k in order to have that form. The other form we had was intercept form, which was y equals a times x minus r times x minus s, where we would be looking to put numbers in for r and s, where r and s are the x-intercepts for our function. So let's look at these examples. In this first example, we have a vertex, -3, 2, and we have a y-intercept of 5. So what we have in this vertex is we have a number for h. H is -3. We have a number for k. K is 2. And if we have a y-intercept of 5, then we have a point which would be 0, 5. This would be a particular value for x when y was 5. What I need in order to write my equation is I need to know what a is. So this is what I can do. If I take vertex form, which is y equals a times x minus h squared plus k, and I'm using vertex form because I know the vertex, and I fill in what I've got, right? I have 5 for y, I need a, I have 0 for x, I have -3 for h, that's a -3, which would be squared, and I have 2 for k. That gives me an equation that I could solve for a. So if I work that out, I get 5 equals, right, 0 minus 3 is 3, squared is 9, so 9a plus 2. Subtract the 2, and I get 9a equals 3. Divide by that 9, and I get a equals 3 divided by 9, or 1/3. I now know a, I know h and k, so the equation I'm looking for would be of the form y, right? My equation needs to have x and y as variables in it, equals my a, which is 1/3, times x minus h minus -3, so plus 3 squared plus k plus 2. So I took my vertex, I used one particular point to write an equation that let me find a, and then with a and my vertex, h and k, I can write an equation. All right, let's look at the next example where we have x-intercepts 1 and 3. Right, so if I know that my x-intercepts are 1 and 3, then I could say that r is 1 and s is 3. I could call r 3 and s 1. That wouldn't make any difference. The other, right, and I need that, so this is good information to have. But the other thing I need for this equation is I need a, which I don't have, but I do have a point, right? I have the point -1, 16, which gives me a number for x and a number for y that I could plug into an equation if it would be helpful. So if I take my intercept form, which is y equals a times x minus r times x minus s, which would be helpful because I have the x-intercepts. And I plug in what I know. I can put in 16 for y equals a, which I need to find, times -1 for x, minus one of my x-intercepts, right? I'm going to use 1, times x again, -1, minus the other x-intercept, I'll use the 3. I have an equation that I can solve for a. So if I simplify, I get 16 equals a times -1 minus 1 is -2, times -1 minus 3 is -4, right? That gives me 16 equals 8 times a. Divide both sides by 8, and I get a equals 16 divided by 8, or 2. So I now know a, I know r and s. I can write my equation, which is y equals, right, my a, 2, times x minus one of my x-intercepts times x minus my other x-intercept. Right? And I have a quadratic equation. Now, if I wanted to write an equation in standard form, I would just simplify those. So if I came in here, right, this would be y equals 1/3 times x plus 3 squared, which is x squared, plus 6x plus 9, and then I plus 2. Distribute the 1/3 and I get 1/3 x squared plus 1/3 of 6, which is 2x, plus 1/3 of 9, which is 3, and to that I'm going to add the 2. So that would give me, right, this could be replaced with a 5, and I would have standard form of a quadratic. On this lower one, I could do, right, I've got 3 things to multiply, the 2, this group, and this group. It's usually easier if you multiply your binomials together and then distribute the 2. So this gives me x squared minus 4x plus 3. Distribute the 2 and we get 2x squared minus 8x plus 6. And then I have standard form. So if all you're asked to write is to write an equation, then either one of these forms, vertex or intercept form, is fine. But if specifically you need a function in standard form, you would need to simplify. Okay, that's it. That's all we needed to cover. You've got a couple questions to do tonight, and then I'll see you tomorrow.